Once upon a time, there was a girl named Ashley, and she was so good. She was good at school, good at her job, good in a crisis, actually, especially good in a crisis. She was the one who held it together. She was the one who made sure everyone around her was okay. She read the room before she even walked into it. She knew what you needed before you even needed it. And from the outside, she looked like she had it all figured out. She was also exhausted all the time, and she had no idea who she actually was. This is the story of two patterns that ran her life for a long perfectionism and people-pleasing. And here's the part that nobody told her. They weren't flaws. They weren't character defects. They were survival strategies. Brilliant ones, in fact, actually. They just stopped serving her a long time ago. So, here's your call. Pull up your chair. Let's sit around the fire. Welcome back to Sit Around the Fire, the podcast. I am Ashlea Dillard, and in fact, this story is about me today. But before we get into it, you gotta know what you're diving into. This is the space where we slow down, we get honest, and we look at the stuff that actually is running the show underneath our lives. Today, I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm telling you a story, and the girl in the story is me. You know this, but I have a feeling you might actually recognize yourself in her too. Because if you've ever been called the responsible one, or the easy kid, the strong friend, the one who's so put together, this episode is meant for you. You are hearing this for a reason. We're talking about perfectionism and people-pleasing, and we're not going to talk about them the way the internet does, like they just are bad habits that you need more discipline to break. We are going to talk about them the way they actually work, as nervous system patterns, as old survival codes, as your body doing exactly what it learned to do to keep you safe. Because here is the tagline that you have heard me say before, and I will most definitely be saying it again. So hear me out. You are not broken. You've been programmed, and the very good news about programming is that it can be rewritten. So without further ado, let's get into this. Before we meet the perfectionist and the people pleaser, I need you to understand one thing about your nervous system, because everything else hangs on this. Your nervous system is not living in the present moment. Not really. Its number one job is to keep you alive. And to do that, it is constantly running one question in the background all day, every day. Am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe right now? And it doesn't wait for the threat to actually show up. It predicts. It scans the horizon. It reads faces. It picks up the tone of voice. It remembers everything that ever hurt you before, and it tries to get ahead of the next thing. It plays out the what ifs. What if this goes wrong? What if they're mad at me? What if I'm not enough? What if it all falls apart? That isn't anxiety just being dramatic. That's a survival system doing its actual job, preparing you for an outcome it's terrified of. So when we talk about perfectionism and people pleasing, I want you to hear them exactly that way. They are two of the most sophisticated ways your nervous system learned to answer that question. Two different strategies for the same desperate goal. Make this safe. Make sure I'm okay. Make sure everyone else is okay. Now let's meet the first one. So there's our girl, Ashley. And she has learned early That if everything is handled, nothing can blow up. If she's prepared for every scenario, she can't be caught off guard. If it's perfect, no one can be disappointed. No one can be angry. And most importantly, nothing bad can happen on her watch. This is perfectionism. And I want to place it in the body for you. When most people think of fight or flight, they picture someone running from a bear. But flight isn't always your legs moving like crazy. Sometimes flight is your mind moving, sprinting ahead into every single possible future, trying to outrun the threat before it arrives. That's sympathetic nervous system activation at its finest. The gas pedal pressed all the way to the stinking floorboard. Perfectionism is flight in a nice outfit. Think about it. The need to control, the need to plan, the need to make it flawless. What is that really? It's the nervous system saying, if I can manage every single variable, I can guarantee safety. If I anticipate every problem, I can prevent every problem. The control isn't about being controlling. The control is making the world feel more survivable. And here's where it gets tender for a lot of us. The perfectionism grew up right alongside being the one who kept everything okay. If you were the kid who managed the household mood, who made sure the adults didn't tip over the edge, who was the steady one in the chaos, then making things perfect wasn't a preference. It was literally a job. It was how you kept yourself safe and everyone around you safe at the same time. Perfectionism became the way you took care of the entire room. So that's where it comes from. Now let's talk about the trap. Because here's what nobody wants to tell you about perfectionism. It keeps you from making decisions. When everything has to be perfect, no choice is ever safe enough to commit to. You research it to death. You weigh out every option. You wait for the certainty that's never coming. And so you sit there, frozen, with your foot on the gas, engine roaring, going nowhere. You're exhausted from running and you haven't even moved a single inch. That is the unfortunate cruelty of it all. The sympathetic system is expensive. It is meant to be a short sprint, not an entire way of life. But the perfectionist lives there, always braced, always preparing, always one more thing to fix before she's actually allowed to rest. And so you feel tired in a way that sleep doesn't even touch. Because it's not your body that's tired. It's your nervous system idling at full throttle 24 freaking hours a day. And then something doesn't go as planned. Maybe it's small. The thing you worked on isn't perfect. Someone's disappointed. A plan changes. You make a mistake in public. Watch what happens in the body. It's not, oh well, no big deal. It is a literal threat response. Real, physical, gut level threat. Heat in the chest, the spiral, the replay, the shame. Why is it so big? Because for the perfectionist, imperfection isn't an inconvenience. It's an identity level emergency. Hear that again, because the perfectionist doesn't see imperfection as solely an inconvenience. It is literally an identity level emergency. This is a piece that I really, really, really want you to hear. When your safety has been built on being the one who gets it right, then getting it wrong doesn't just feel bad. It feels like the floor disappearing from underneath you. Because if I'm not the perfect one, the capable one, the one who handles it, then who am I really? And underneath that, even quieter, if I'm not perfect, am I still safe? Am I still loved? Am I still allowed to stay? That's why a small mistake can level you for a day. It's not about the mistake itself. It's the threat to who you've had to be in order to feel okay. So that's our perfectionist, running flat out to outrun a danger that already happened a long time ago. Let's meet her partner in survival. Here's my favorite picture for this one. So close your eyes if you're not driving, of course. Picture a gazelle on the savannah, and a lion shows up. Now, the gazelle has options we know about. It can fight, it can run, it can freeze. But imagine the gazelle does something else entirely. Imagine the gazelle walks up to the lion and says, "You seem stressed. Can I get you some tea? Tell me about your day. What can I do for you?" That's the fawn response. That's people pleasing. Fawn is the survival strategy where you don't fight the threat and you don't flee the threat. You befriend it. You appease it. You make yourself so pleasant, so helpful, so agreeable, so attuned to what it wants that it stops being a threat. You disarm the lion by becoming exactly what the lion needs you to be. And it works. That's the thing. It is a genuinely effective way to survive in an environment that you can't escape and you can't fight, which is exactly the environment a lot of us grew up in. If the people you depended on were unpredictable or overwhelmed or scary or just impossible to please, fawning kept you safe. You learned to scan their faces. You learned to soften yourself. You learned to need less, to want less, to take up less space, to give more. You became the gazelle pouring tea for the lion every single day and calling it being a good kid. Now, let me tell you about what it cost because I have lived this one and I want to be honest with you about the bill that comes up due. The cost of people pleasing is yourself. It's not being dramatic. When you spend years reading what everyone else wants and you shape yourself to fit it, you genuinely lose track of who you are. You wear so many masks for so long that you forget about what your actual face looks like. There was a stretch of my life where if you'd ask me a simple question, what do you like? What do you want? What's your opinion? I would have frozen. Not because I was humble, because I didn't know. I had spent so long answering, "What do you want?" that I had no actual answer for myself. That's the loss of identity I want to name. People pleasing doesn't just make you tired, it slowly erases you. You put on the mask to blend in. You put on the mask to be accepted. You put on the mask to feel valued, to feel important, to feel like you've earned your place in the room. And every time it works, every time the mask gets you the approval you're looking for. But what happens is that pattern gets reinforced. See, that's what keeps you safe. Be who they need. Don't be who you are. And the deepest cost is that you start to believe that the real you, the one with needs and opinions and limits and a no in her somewhere, that version was never going to be enough. That she had to be hidden for you to be loved. That's the lie at the bottom of the fawn response. And it is a lie, but your nervous system filed it as a truth long time ago. Now, you might be noticing neither of these is a decision. Nobody sat down at age 6 and chose to become a perfectionist or a people pleaser. So, how the heck does this actually happen? It gets wired early when you're too young to have any other options. A small child can't fight and it can't flee. They're completely dependent on the big people around them. So the nervous system reaches for what it can do. Be perfect, be good, be helpful, be easy, be whatever keeps the connection intact and the threat at bay. And because we're wired before we have language, this isn't stored as a memory you can think your way out of. It's stored in the body as a setting, as your default setting. And here's the part that is almost spooky, and it's what people stay stuck in for decades. Once that pattern is set, you don't just carry it, you recreate it. Your nervous system is drawn to the familiar, even when the familiar hurts and the familiar is hell. Because familiar reads as safe to a survival system. So the perfectionist keeps taking on the impossible standard, keeps choosing the environments where she has to be over functioning, keeps the bar somewhere up in the clouds. And the people pleaser keeps finding the lions, keeps ending up in the relationships, the jobs, the dynamics where she has to earn her keep, manage someone else's moods, and pour the tea. Not because she's choosing badly, because her nervous system is running on an old map and walking her right back into the terrain it knows. We draw in exactly the same situations that prove the old pattern right. And then we say, see, this is just how my life is. When really, it's how your programming is. And those are not the same thing. Okay, take a breath with me here because I don't ever want to leave you in the diagnosis. The diagnosis is not the destination. Here's what I need you to actually walk away with. If perfectionism and people-pleasing are learned, if they got wired into a nervous system that was doing its absolute best to keep you safe, then they can be unlearned, rewired. That's not wishful thinking. That's how the nervous system actually works. The same brilliant adaptive system that built these patterns to protect you can build new ones. You're not stuck with the factory setting of a scared kid. And the first move isn't to fight the pattern. Please don't make the perfectionist be perfect at not being a perfectionist. Don't make the people pleaser ashamed of fawning. That's just the same energy in a new costume. The first move is to thank it. I mean that, really. The next time you catch yourself spiraling into getting it perfect or shape-shifting to keep someone happy, instead of judging it, try this. Thank you. I see you were trying to keep me safe. I know where you learned this. I'm an adult now. I've got this. I've got this from here. Because the truth is, you're not in that childhood room anymore. The lion isn't at the table. The danger that taught you to run and to please, it's behind you. Your nervous system just hasn't gotten the memo. And our work, gently over time, is to send that memo. To teach your body in small, repeatable ways that it is safe to make a decision. Safe to be imperfect. Safe to have a preference. Safe to disappoint someone and still be along. Finally, safe to take off the mask and find out you're still loved underneath it. This is what I mean when I talk about living from the future forward. You don't have to keep building your life from the blueprint of the kid who had to survive. You get to build it from who you're becoming. The version of you who gets to be whole, messy, opinionated, imperfectly human, and gets to be safe anyway. That girl in the story, the good one, the capable one, the exhausted one, she was never the problem. She was the solution to a problem she shouldn't have had to solve so young. And she's allowed to put the tea down now. So are you. Before we wrap it up, I want to give you something to actually sit with this week. Not homework, just a campfire question. Here it is. Where in your life are you still running a strategy that you don't need anymore? Maybe it's the perfectionism that won't let you make the call. Maybe it's the people pleasing that has you saying yes when your whole body is saying no. Just notice it. You don't have to fix it this week. Awareness is the doorway here. You can't rewire what you can't see. And if you want one tiny experiment, pick one small, very low stakes place this week and let it be imperfect on purpose. Send the email with a typo. Have an unpopular opinion at dinner. Say, actually, I'd rather not. And then notice that you survived it. That's a rep. That's how you send your nervous system the memo, one rep at a time. That's how the whole thing rewires. Thank you for taking the time, investing in yourself, and sitting down with me today. If this one landed with you, if you saw yourself in that girl, I'd love for you to share it with someone who needs to hear that they're not broken. They were just doing what they had to do to be okay. If you want to go deeper into this work, the nervous system, the reprogramming, actually getting free of these patterns instead of just understanding them, that's exactly what I love to do. You can find everything over at the website, ashleadiller.com. And you can find the rest of the podcast and all the resources at sitaroundthefire.org. But until next time, be gentle with the version of you that learned to survive. She got you here. And keep living from the future forward. I will see you around the fire next time.